Before you jump into learning animation by yourself, take an animation course, start to study animation at university or college. I think it's really important to improve your drawing skills. The term drawing or art skills is very wide and can be broken down to several subtopics, so I'm going to concentrate on the most important ones from an animator's perspective. This is a highly debated topic among people who study animation, but let me tell what art skills I find essential for animators and why. Before I start the video though, I would like to say three things. First, I don't consider myself a professional animator yet, so don't take my tips and advice as if they were coming from an industry professional or a teacher. But I definitely have experience as I've been in the industry for 3 years. I'm a background painter and I illustrate as well. The main reason I'm not highly skilled specifically at animation yet is because I wanted to improve on other areas as well. That of course took away the time when I could have concentrated on animation. But I don't see this as something regrettable, it's actually quite the opposite. The second thing is that in this video I will focus on hand-drawn 2D animation, but I think the skills I talk about are definitely good to have for 3D animators as well. 3D is a whole different world and I know the basics of it, but I don't think you can get away with the I'm a 3D animator slash rigger slash modeler, so I don't need drawing skills mindset. I'm sorry, but that's what I think. The third thing is that I wanted to say hi. I hope you all have been doing good. Do you all drink enough water? I really hope you do. I'm looking at you respectfully and politely. Okay, let's get started. First of all, what are the most essential art skills? If you are an artist, even if you're a beginner, you must have heard of these. They can be applied to both traditional and digital art. I highly recommend to start out with traditional art though. If you search it up on the internet or open a book that teaches the fundamentals of art, usually you will come across 10 to 20 skills listed. These are applying line weight and contour variation, drawing from real life, drawing in a proportionally correct way, knowing different kinds of composition, knowing how light and shadows work, mastering pencil and brush strokes, knowledge of anatomy, understanding and applying linear perspective and atmospheric perspective, knowledge of color practice and theory, being able to draw realistically, and understanding your mistakes. Some people may list fewer, some may list more points. Obviously, it takes years, a lot of effort and energy to learn the fundamentals of art. I'm not saying you should master all of them, but I think it's important to know at least the basics of each. Depending on what direction you want to go to, you can choose and decide which skills are the most important for you to improve and develop. Most artists excel at one area while they are not the best at another one, and that's totally fine. Now I'm going to talk about the art skills that I find the most important for animation. Being able to proportionally draw what's in front of you is a much needed skill. Obviously, I'm not saying that you should slay like Michelangelo, but it's important to make lots of study drawings, sketches and croquis when you start to learn art. These drawings or paintings don't even have to be very accurate and detailed unless you want them to look so. I know this approach is a bit traditional, but I can guarantee it will make you improve fast. Not only how you draw, but your visual ability as well. It's also absolutely okay to make mistakes, that's part of the learning process. Why is this important for animators? When they animate, most of the time they use references in order to make the poses and movements more accurate and proportional. This goes for human characters, animals, objects, effects like explosions, elements like fire or water, etc. Often when I can't find a good reference on the internet, I will literally take pictures of or film myself. Sometimes it feels a bit cringe, but no one else will see it, and by the way, many animators do this. And of course, depending on the character design and art style, you can or have to alter your animation frames. Reference is reference, you don't copy it, you use it. This point can be directly connected to the previous one. Practicing drawing from real life and making your drawings as proportional as possible is really important. When you animate, you have to pay attention to the proportions of the characters and their surroundings. How much taller is character A than character B? What are the proportions of their face and body? If they have props like weapons or other objects, what are the measurements of those? You also have to think about what they are surrounded by. Obviously, drawing and painting the environment of the characters is the background artist's job, but you still have to pay attention to it, especially if you have to draw the layout of a shot or if you have to animate an object that is part of the scene. The proportions of characters and anatomy are in relation to each other. In my opinion, it's important to study anatomy even if you animate very cartoony characters, because how could you exaggerate their features if you don't know how to draw people in an anatomically correct way in the first place? Anatomy is even more important if you prefer Japanese animation. We can mention how beautifully hands are drawn in anime, for example. We can think about OG 2D Disney animation as well. There are rules we have to learn. If we learn them properly, later we can break them. We have to know how to correctly draw the human head, face, hair, body, etc. An animator has to know how to draw facial expressions, gestures, body language, and even mannerisms. They have to be able to express so many different kinds of human emotions with just lines. We can list countless examples of why anatomy is important. Walk and run cycles, fights, dancing, literally just sitting, lying down, jumping, so many different movements. Honestly, I don't even know why I became an animator, like this is torture. But anyway, let's move on to the next point, which is composition. You must have heard of different kinds of compositions when you were studying about famous paintings. Some popular types are, for example, vertical, horizontal, diagonal, central, and symmetrical composition. There are also different techniques you can apply when you compose a picture. Framing, leading lines, negative space, filling the frame, contrast, repetition pattern, rhythm, dynamics, statics, and so on. You can even mix these. Composition styles and techniques are applied not just in fine arts but in photography and in film as well. They are important regarding aesthetics, visual storytelling, and delivering emotions. Animators have to learn them too. The reason why it's even harder for them is because they constantly have to keep up the balance of moving elements on screen. It can also happen that they have to express some kind of imbalance with composition. But even in that case, the animation has to look good and has to have a reason why the composition is out of balance. When you compose a picture or shot, perspective will also play a huge role. Animating something in perspective can be really challenging, so I would advise you to only move to this step once you've become comfortable with the basics of animation. Just think about it. Drawing a single frame in perspective is already not easy. Now try to do this with a character or object that has to move in time and space. Don't be scared though. Don't be scared, don't stress, it's okay. You can express many things by applying perspective to your shots and can make your animation more exciting and interesting. For example, you can show strong emotions by animating a character's face and head from a high-angle shot. If you animate someone from a strong low-angle shot, you can show their power or superiority. There are different types of perspective as well, such as aerial perspective, which is usually applied to backgrounds, frontal or one-point perspective, angular or 2 points perspective, and perspectives with 3, 4, 5 or even 6 vanishing points. Knowing how light and shadow work is also useful to know for animators. The easiest way to understand it is by making lots of study drawings with very soft dark pencil or charcoal. Using only dark gray will force you to use different values. This ability also comes in handy when you paint traditionally or digitally, so it's extremely important for background artists. If you would like to animate in anime style, you will have to mark shadows and highlights on your cells to give clear instructions to colorists. We use flat colors to show highlight and shadows on animated characters and objects, but it's still important to know where light comes from, how it sits on objects, which parts contain shadow, and whether shadows are cast or form. In the later stage of production, they also add special effects to emphasize light and shadows and to deliver different atmosphere and mood to the scenes. The next essential skill is being able to draw clean lines. This point in the list is my favorite one. I really like making line art. I know many artists hate to draw clean line art and it can be a pain in the ass. But once you know the tricks and have practiced enough, it will become a very useful skill. Practicing drawing with clean lines develops your fine motor skills and your confidence in drawing. When you clean up your animation, you must not leave sketchy and messy lines. Sometimes you might have to apply different line weight as well. Some lines have to be thicker, while some have to be thinner. You might also have to vary the number of lines and details. It's crucial for animators to have line confidence. Characters consist of clear lines. Lines are what you animate. The last point is that if you understand and learn from your mistakes, you will improve a lot faster. Animation is hard and even professionals who have been in the industry for several years make mistakes sometimes. Don't be too hard on yourself. In the beginning, many of your animations will probably look wonky and a bit ugly. And that's totally okay. That doesn't mean you're bad at it or you have no talent. It will take years to get to a decent level unless you're a genius. What's important is to look at your whole animation and at your frames one by one and understand what mistakes you made and what you could make better next time. Of course, not everything you make will contain errors, but when you stumble a bit, it's important to have a positive mindset and use your mistakes as motivation to improve. Learning from your mistakes will push you forward. In conclusion, don't become an animator unless you love pain and suffering. Okay, no. Animators slay. They never stop slaying. Okay, let's be for real. Before you jump into animation, I really recommend you to improve the skills I mentioned in this video. And again, I would like to emphasize that you don't have to become an absolute pro at everything, but you don't want to build a house with a wonky-ass foundation. This is my opinion and I'm open to hearing what you think. Let me know in the comment section if you have found this video helpful or interesting and whether you agree or disagree with my points. Oh, and subscribe to my silly channel. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, love and peace.